Pursuant to Decision 75/558, I now introduce the pre-recorded statement of Ms. Sue Coleman-Haseldine, a Kolkata nuclear test survivor and member of the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons in Australia.
My name is Sue Haseldine. I am a senior Kolkata woman from Sejuna on the far west coast of South Australia. I was about 2 years old when nuclear testing started at Maralinga and Emu Fields. I wasn't on ground zero, but the wind brought the radiation fallout to us and the rest of Australia. We didn't know the dangers of the fallout, and no one told my old people about it, but they knew it was poisonous dust coming our way. It was their instincts telling them. All of Australia has been contaminated through these nuclear testings that was done by the British and Australian governments. They did it in secret. There is so much cancer around my country, as well as thyroid disease, defects in babies. There is the threat of a nuclear waste dump on country now, which to me is another form of radiation poisoning, just waiting to happen. The impacts of the Maralinga and Emu Fields testing is still being felt today, over 60 years later. Radiation is not prejudice. It doesn't care if you are black, white or brindle, rich or poor. It will get you. I travelled to Vienna, New York and Japan to tell my story and to push for change throughout the world. It's great that the nuclear weapons ban has come into force. Now we must push for all countries to join this treaty, including Australia. Just remember, the future forever belongs to the next generation, and it would be great if they had animals to share it. It's up to us now to make sure that we finally put these destructive weapons where they belong, in the past. Thank you for listening.
I thank Ms. Coleman-Haseldine for her statement. Pursuant to Decision 75/558, I now introduce the pre-recorded statement of Ms. Danity Laukon, former member of the Marshall Islands Student Association.
The President of the General Assembly, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Yahweh and greetings to all. My name is Danity Laukon and I am from the Marshall Islands. As we commemorate International Day Against Nuclear Tests, I ask myself, would my children ever grow to know who they are, where they belong? And if they truly do, will they fear living in their contaminated lands and water as we are surrounded by the sea? Recently, my 6-year-old daughter shared a school presentation on the Marshallese legend of the Wallat, the first coconut in the Marshall Islands. Born from a beautiful woman, the Wallat, mocked and ridiculed for seen as useless in the village. His mother loved and cared for him despite the village's disapproval. Then one day, the Wallat, who knew himself well, asked his mother to bury him because he said he would become more useful. His mother did so with great sadness, but one day, to her and the village's surprise, the Wallat became a full-grown coconut tree. Every part of the Wallat, from his trunk, leaves, fruits, fibers, and flowers, became the most useful source of life for his people. My daughter expressed to her peers that the moral of the story is to love and respect others despite their differences. But how do I explain to her that her people, land and ocean, were insulted by nuclear weapons and destruction? The Marshallese nuclear legacy mirrors the woes of the scorned Wallat. My daughter will live to know that her people endured 67 nuclear and thermonuclear tests conducted by the United States government straight after the Second World War. Of these tests, the Bravo shot on March 1, 1954, was 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. So powerful it completely obliterated an entire landmass and erased several of our islands out of existence. Fallout on that day fell and burned many children's hairs, skins, and contaminated their families' water and food sources. But that's not all. Our people today continue to endure being displaced from their ancestral lands and are fighting to heal from cancers and contaminated ecosystems. Of key concern is the radioactive waste contained in the Runa Dome on Enewetak Atoll that is currently leaking into the ocean and groundwater. This dome, combined with the effects of climate change and shared nuclear legacies in her neighboring islands of French Polynesia and Kiribati, is even more concerning. In my daughter and her people's honor, I demand the nuclear-armed states to right their wrongs and adopt nuclear justice. You must show the utmost regard for those whose lives have been altered forever by nuclear testing. The rest of us are tasked with bringing more concrete actions and establishing better practices moving forward. I would like to conclude by saying that I, along with the many mothers of my generation, do not want the tragedies of nuclear testing to be the stories that we pass on to our children. Instead, we wish to leave them behind a legacy of peace, filled with stories of nuclear heroes. We refuse to remain buried in the sand. We will rise and ensure our people and land are treated with respect and love. The International Day Against Nuclear Testing is a day for us to declare that each life affected by a nuclear tragedy is of unconditional worth. Como Tata, thank you very much.
I thank Ms. Laukon for her statement.